Have I christened these beds here with the guinea pig bedding already? Probably not that solid. This is where the Meyer lemon is. There's where the seedling that bloomed is, and this is where the blood orange is going to be.
The strawberries show yet?
Strawberries?
Yeah.
Not yet. I don't think so. Alright, so guinea pig bedding down. Alright, we put it down there, and as you can see, I put a lot of maple limbs and leaves and stuff on here because we had the maple in the storm. The big maple branch, red maple, broke onto the ground, and we got a lot more maple material for these beds. So I got some of the clones or live pieces of the squash, zucchini, pumpkin, cross, whatever, and they have hardly any roots on them, so they might just die. I potted them, planted them really deep in pretty large pots, one of these 3-gallon pots, and if they survive, I'll probably give some of these away, because seeds can, hybrids especially, may not come true to seed, or they may change, over the course of planting and replanting seeds and pollination. But also, these guys were in the way. I did not want 1,000 foot of vines where these two guys were planted. So if they survive 1, 2, these would be really nice gifts for somebody that doesn't have anything to cross-pollinate, contaminate with, or possibly root, save some of the rooted cuttings before the frosts and keep growing them. See if other people have like 25 to like 70 or 80 pound pumpkins like we did out of the same clones. I forgot to put the tubers and roots and bulbs up before that monsoon basically hit us, and we had like 7 or 8 inches of water over them, so they all need to be planted in a hurry since they've all gotten wet. I planted all the onions out, and I'm either going to give away or plant these somewhere else fast before they rot. I think this avocado fruit size doubled in the last like 4 or 5 days. Whenever I did that last video showing it, we had that big monsoon rainstorm, so it probably just made it expand some. So on raised bed 1, we have a farthing, or at least that's what the tag says, blueberry. So we're going to put a different one there, a legacy, I guess, and just help with pollination if that's an issue. I think you do need 2 for good pollination with blueberries. And I'm hesitant to put these there because I know that some of these guys can get pretty big over time. But I don't know. Maybe I'll put 1 more on raised bed 1 and possibly 1 on raised bed 2. So right here, I kind of wanted to put it there, but there's been an ant bed there for a few months. So I'm going to go about 1.5 feet, 2 foot between the papaya and the ant bed, and I got to kind of dig around there and see how much dirt I'm going to have to add. I think I'm going to put one of the blueberries here in raised bed 1. There's a nice little pocket here, look at that, and there's even a worm right there. These worms, are going to be really active because it's going to be actively composting for a while. I think I can push it in there pretty good and just put some dirt around it where it needs to be. I'll put just a little dirt in that little hole there that's kind of airy, and that's going to be like the base, so it doesn't like dry out or anything because of air, hopefully. Didn't compress down as much as I wanted it to, especially when I got it straight in the air. Now if I curved it, I could probably get most of that hole covered here, but we're going to just have to add more dirt than I was planning, but not a lot, maybe a couple gallons at most. We watered it with some rainwater. It had some duckweed in it. Now we're going to give it some of this magic soil. We're just going to sprinkle on top before putting some kind of, maybe some pine needles in. Pine needles here. Kids freaking out, kids home. I'm not sure I've ever seen as many flowers on a pawpaw tree. And this guy's been blooming, 10 years off and on, maybe more, maybe a little bit less. And we tried to hand pollinate them last year, and it didn't really work. We had a couple that formed on this tree and another tree, and they fell off, or squirrels got them or something. They never got ripe, but they were not from the ones that we hand pollinated. Everything we hand pollinated seemed at first like they got pollination and were starting to get little fruits on them. but they fell off or whatever. But way up high where we wasn't pollinating, they had like 2 or 3 fruits up here. And this is a Tennessee seedling, the first and oldest one I got. It's probably about 15 foot in the air now. And we had weird weather last season, you know, where blooms got killed, citrus trees like bloomed 3 or 4 times. Our plum cot bloomed at least twice. Loquats didn't produce anything last year because the blooms died in the freezes, and then they came out like really vigorous this season. And guess what? You know, I did try to graft a KSU Atwood on 2 of the plants, and hopefully it'll take. But for the most part, I'm not going to try to hand pollinate this year. Maybe we'll try in 4 or 5 years down the road if we get more than like 2 or 3 trees blooming. But well, it seems like they want to do what they want to do no matter what. Now, we haven't tried hanging like rotten meat on here or anything, but again, these guys aren't in close proximity, you know, to another blooming pawpaw right now, so that may not even work either. This is one I grafted last year. You can see we got the cleft graft here, and hopefully it's going to come back. I see it coming back from below the graft, so may need to do a scratch test or just give it a little while. And if this guy buds out, it looks like it's alive to me, then we'll clip the bottom growth later. None of the cleft grafts that we did on the Tennessee seedling took. We did like 4, 5, 6. I don't remember how many we did, but that's, you know, they all failed. So I found this avocado tree growing in the compost. Most likely this wouldn't be our cold hardy Mexican variety that we just somehow misplaced a seed out of, I don't think. But it somehow survived the frosts and freezes. But that could be because it's low growing in the compost bed full of like active compost and warming of the soil with the, you know, the bacteria and earthworms and such. Let's just pot it up and see what happens. So there it is. And those squash from yesterday that I planted don't look happy at all. Maybe I should have bottom watered them, but they still may not make it. They're probably pretty fragile, the root systems and all. Oh, these are our sugar baby watermelon seedlings, sprouts, whatever you want to call them. And we tried to pull them out of the potting soil individually, and they just broke. They snapped. So I guess we learn a lesson next year. If we do them, put them in individual pots, 1 or 2 seeds per little container, you know, peat container, like them little ones over there. But we're just going to try to plant this whole thing where we grew that squash, that 1,000+ foot of squash last year. It's full of, you know, all kinds of nutrients, obviously. So let's see if they survive, even though it's probably a little wetter than they would like. We definitely need, you know, learn as we go. So if this doesn't work next year, higher ground, individual peat pots or tree pots. So I basically put them on top of the ground, the container full of soil and roots and seedlings, and it's a little bit higher just because of the composted down trees and all. And then I'm kind of sprinkled some of our garden soil over top, you know, trying not to bury too, you know, 100%. And there are some that are trying to sprout through there, so it's not just 4, there's probably like 5 or 6. And I put garden soil kind of around it, and it may fail completely, but let's just see what happens. So I picked the first pack of sand mulberry, and let me give it a taste test and see what these guys taste like. That is different. It's kind of like a white mulberry with just a little bit more flavor. Definitely a lot of that white mulberry flavor, but also like a melon or fruity taste as well. Not super acidic or tart or anything. Sweet, but with a little bit of that acidity. It's really good. Definitely not as good as like the dwarf everbearing, but they're small little mulberries, and it takes a lot to do something with, you know. You get a handful of these, probably 20 or 30, you might be able to make something with it, or at least have a nice trail or snack, you know what I'm saying? So we're just going to look at this chestnut again. It has never looked so vibrant, or at least for many, many years, as it has since we did this post-mycorrhizal bed. And we have fertilized it over the years, so that that didn't seem to really help it. This is like instant results. It's not even one whole season since we started this. So if this guy continues to look good and grow, you know, throughout the summer and into the winter, you know, basically this is probably a 15 to 20 year old tree, probably 20, closer to 20. You know, it was big when I bought it. It grew probably as tall as it is now, if not taller, maybe 8 or 10 years ago. Then it started dying down a little bit, a little. It bloomed a few times, but when the other one was blooming, it was probably 120, 150 foot away. It ended up dying. So we really have not had pollination on it. And this is the Dunstan Dunstan hybrid. Look at those nice, beautiful green leaves. But yeah, this guy should be at least 30 foot tall at its age. Maybe 40. I don't know. However, you know, it looks like it's happy now, just without even putting like mycorrhizal soil or anything in that bed. You know, of course, over the years you get a buildup of layered leaves, sticks, and all that have their own mycorrhizal material. But because of the root density with the red maples and possibly, you know, the camphors and sweet gums, it may have just never had a chance to be healthy and happy. And it's so low here. You know, as the roots may have went down, it might have just rotted. So it might have just had little roots on it the whole time. Now, hopefully we're giving it the opportunity to build up some of the roots upwards into these higher beds and give it that protection of the mycorrhizal fungi. If this guy is this happy next year, I would expect it to be blooming again, and maybe another 10 foot taller. In 2 years, maybe another 20 foot. Even this pear here that we recently done does look just a little bit better.